They're going to place the barge underneath the bridge, and then they're going to have an excavator on top of the barge, and that excavator is going to hold pieces of the metal frame while they're cut out.
Since the early 1930s, the old Eastern Avenue Bridge has spanned the Don River, but in just a few days, work will get underway to prepare the structure for demolition. Don Forbes, project director with Waterfront Toronto, says this project is complicated and adds while the bridge may be less robust than a more modern structure, it's also so far past its service life that the metal has deteriorated, making the process less predictable.
So it's no longer as structurally sound, so the engineering involved in demolition is a little more careful than otherwise.
That extra care, is that just so when you're demolishing it, it doesn't come down faster than you would hope?
Yes. It's a controlled demolition project where they're going to take out the bridge member by member, piece by piece in a controlled fashion so that it does stay structurally intact during the whole process.
He also says a few years back, a heritage assessment was also completed. That evaluation determined the bridge did not meet the criteria for heritage designation under the Ontario Heritage Act. Forbes describing the bridge's removal as vitally necessary to the flood protection project underway in the area.
Floodwaters coming down the Don River Valley would hit that bridge, and the back pressure on the water would cause floodwaters to go around it and potentially flood, the area that we're standing on right now. The other big risk factor is that floodwater, because the bridge is so old and so deteriorated, the floodwater could rip it from its moorings.
It was a fine example of the Baltimore-style truss bridge. It's a triple span, so it was quite significant. I mean, that was a pretty spacious bridge at the time.
Meanwhile, Paul Federico, president of the Toronto Historical Association, says this demolition marks the end of an era, and he hopes some of the bridge can be preserved and repurposed, effectively taking a piece of its own history forward with it into another project.
I'm sure there must be some way to use the structure when it comes down, or parts of it, somewhere else or in some other configuration. Not just as a static memorial, but actually find a purpose for it so it's not lost completely.
Now, the crews currently on site are actually doing work through the city to reconstruct the lower Don Trail. When that work is done next week, the demo team can step in. The process is expected to take a few weeks. In Corktown, David Zura, City News.